The distant starlight cast long shadows across the observation deck, painting Rebecca Chen's face in sharp relief against the endless black of space. Her fingers traced the holographic displays, each flicker revealing the intricate lifelines of humanity's most ambitious frontier settlement. Meridian Prime wasn't just a colony. It was a testament to human resilience, a delicate ecosystem of hope suspended between infinite darkness and potential. 17 years had passed since the first colonization ships landed on this remote planetary system. What began as a desperate experiment in deep space settlement had become something far more complex. The planet itself seemed to resist human presence, with its volatile magnetic fields, unpredictable radiation storms, and terrain that shifted like a living entity. Rebecca remembered the early days. The first settlers had arrived with nothing but determination and a collection of experimental technologies. No government had fully backed their mission. No major corporation had invested significant resources. They were the outcasts, the dreamers, the individuals who understood that humanity's future lay beyond the comfortable confines of Earth's solar system. The colony's primary habitat module stood as a testament to human improvisation. What should have been a pristine, uniform structure was instead a beautiful chaos of interconnected systems. Solar panels salvaged from decommissioned satellites were welded onto exterior walls. Communication arrays cobbled together from multiple generations of technology created a communication network that was both fragile and incredibly resilient. Power conduits wound through the habitat like metallic veins, each one telling a story of adaptation. A cooling system originally designed for Arctic research stations had been modified to manage the extreme temperature fluctuations of this alien world. Water reclamation units incorporated technologies from desert survival research, ensuring that every drop was captured, filtered, and reused with ruthless efficiency. Agriculture represented the colony's most impressive achievement. Massive hydroponic gardens filled entire sections of the habitat, utilizing genetic-modified plants that could thrive in minimal soil and extract nutrients from the planet's mineral-rich bedrock. Vertical farming towers stretched upward, their LED grow lights creating a perpetual twilight that supported crops capable of producing 3 times the yield of traditional Earth-based agriculture. From her current position, Rebecca could see the latest expansion project. A new agricultural dome was taking shape, constructed from transparent composite materials that could withstand the planet's intense radiation and rapid pressure changes. Workers moved with practiced efficiency, their environmental suits a testament to the colony's comprehensive training program. Here, everyone was a specialist and a generalist. An engineer might also be trained in medical procedures. A farmer could operate complex machinery, and even children understood advanced survival protocols. The colony's defensive capabilities were equally impressive. What appeared to be simple communication relays and mining equipment could be rapidly transformed into a complex defensive network. Every piece of technology was designed with multiple purposes in mind. A cargo drone could become a reconnaissance unit. A mining laser could be recalibrated into a precision targeting system. Outside the habitat, the planetary landscape told its own story of human determination. Geological surveys had initially deemed the planet nearly uninhabitable. Extreme temperature variations, unpredictable electromagnetic storms, and a lack of easily accessible water had made most scientific teams write it off as a potential settlement site. But the Meridian Prime founders saw potential where others saw only challenges. Rebecca's communication implant chirped softly. The daily status report began streaming directly into her consciousness. Power grid stability, agricultural output, atmospheric conditions, equipment maintenance schedules. Each data point represented a victory against impossible odds. 17 years of continuous human presence on a world that seemed determined to reject them. A younger colonist approached, datapad in hand. "Captain Chen, we've completed the preliminary assessments for the new agricultural dome. Initial projections suggest we'll increase our food production capacity by another 22%. She nodded, a slight smile breaking through her typically serious demeanor. Each small victory mattered. Each improvement brought them one step closer to true sustainability. Meridian Prime was more than a colony. It was a living experiment in human potential, a beacon of hope burning bright against the vast, indifferent darkness of space. Little did they know that their greatest challenge was about to arrive, hidden among the distant stars. Deep within the command center of the Zarkon Primary Battle Cluster, Captain Selmak reviewed the incoming reconnaissance data with a mixture of clinical detachment and growing curiosity. Holographic displays danced around him, each projection revealing snippets of information about the small human settlement designated as Sector 7 Gamma 9. The Zarkon expanse represented the pinnacle of technological supremacy across multiple star systems. Their fleet had conquered hundreds of worlds, assimilating resources and technological innovations from countless civilizations. Each conquest followed a precise, mathematically calculated strategy that had remained unchanged for generations. Identify, assess, consume, move on. This particular mission seemed almost routine. Initial long-range scans suggested a minor human settlement with minimal defensive capabilities. 50,000 colonists. Limited technological infrastructure. No significant strategic value beyond potential resource extraction. The preliminary report classified Meridian Prime as a low-priority target, practically a footnote in the grand tapestry of galactic expansion. Captain Selmak's primary science officer, a complex biomechanical entity named Krevel, projected additional details onto the central display. Preliminary analysis indicates unusual technological adaptations, Krevel reported, their voice a perfect blend of synthetic tones and organic resonance. The human settlement demonstrates unconventional resource management and technological integration. Selmak's secondary neural cluster processed the information with practiced efficiency. Unconventional did not mean threatening. Throughout their centuries of galactic conquest, the Zarkon had encountered numerous species that believed their unique approaches somehow made them special. None had ever posed a genuine challenge. The invasion fleet began its methodical preparation. 16 primary combat vessels, each the size of a small moon, moved into initial positioning. Support craft and resource extraction units aligned with mathematical precision. Automated systems began calculating optimal approach vectors, resource harvesting trajectories, and potential resistance scenarios. Within the fleet's central strategic planning chamber, holographic representations of Meridian Prime were dissected and analyzed. Every geological formation, every technological signature was mapped and categorized. The planet's electromagnetic environment was unusual but not unprecedented. Their shield technologies had overcome far more complex planetary defenses. Estimated time to initial contact, Krevel announced, 17 standard cycles. Selmak's response was immediate and calculated. Prepare standard conquest protocols. Minimal force required. Maximum resource extraction efficiency. The decision to attack was less about immediate need and more about maintaining the Zarkon Expanse's reputation for absolute galactic dominance. Each conquered world served as a reminder of their technological superiority. Mercy was an inefficient concept. Negotiation was a waste of computational resources. Aboard the various ships, combat units began final preparation sequences. Biomechanical warriors, part organic, part machine, ran diagnostic protocols. Energy weapons were calibrated. Invasion modules were positioned with microscopic precision. Every system functioned with a synchronicity that bordered on living intelligence. What the Zarkon did not understand was the nature of human adaptation. Their strategic calculations were based on hundreds of previous conquests, each following predictable patterns of resistance and submission. They saw Meridian Prime as another resource to be harvested, another civilization to be categorized and consumed. They could not have been more wrong. In the depths of the primary battle cluster, smaller systems began to process additional data streams. Anomalous readings started to accumulate, subtle discrepancies that would have been overlooked by less sophisticated analytical processes. The human settlement's technological signature was unlike anything in their extensive database. Creeville's analytical subroutines began to generate preliminary warning scenarios. "Captain," they interrupted the strategic planning sequence. "I'm detecting unusual technological integration patterns in the target settlement. My predictive models are generating unexpected outcome probabilities." Selnak's response was dismissive. "Elaborate." "The human colony demonstrates a level of systemic adaptability that defies our standard conquest algorithms," Creeville explained. "Their technological infrastructure appears to be living, constantly reconfiguring. Each system seems capable of multiple functional states." The warning went unheeded. The Zarkon expanse had conquered civilizations far more technologically advanced. What could 50,000 human colonists possibly do to resist their overwhelming force? The invasion countdown continued. 17 cycles until first contact. 17 cycles until everything they knew would change. The warning came quietly, almost imperceptibly. A subtle anomaly in the long-range communication array, a faint vibration in the colony's outer sensor grid. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead systems integration specialist, noticed it first during her routine morning diagnostics. Her fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces, each movement pulling together layers of complex data. The colony's integrated defense system was more than a simple network. It was a living, breathing organism of technological innovation. Every module, every piece of equipment existed in a state of constant potential, ready to be repurposed at a moment's notice. "Emergency preparedness drill," she announced over the colony-wide communication channel. The words were a carefully coded signal that would set in motion weeks of intense preparation. In the agricultural domes, farmers became instant technicians. Hydroponic monitoring systems were recalibrated to serve as potential communication jamming devices. The massive water filtration units that kept the colony hydrated could be rapidly converted into coolant systems for defensive equipment. Solar collection panels were repositioned, their angles adjusted to create potential energy redirection capabilities. The colony's training protocols were legendary among deep space settlements. Every resident underwent comprehensive cross-training that defied traditional specialization. A botanist could just as easily manage complex machinery as perform emergency medical procedures. Children as young as 12 understood advanced survival protocols and basic technological adaptation strategies. In the primary engineering bay, a team worked with feverish intensity. Mining lasers originally designed for geological survey were being systematically modified. Their precision optics could be recalibrated into targeting systems. Cargo drones, typically used for resource transportation, were being outfitted with improvised sensor packages and lightweight defensive capabilities. Rebecca Chen moved through the facility like a conductor orchestrating a complex symphony. Her background in naval engineering and colonial defense gave her a unique perspective on systemic adaptation. She understood that their survival would depend not on overwhelming force, but on unpredictability and versatility. Communication relay teams, she called out during a strategy session. "I want multiple redundant systems. Use everything. Satellite fragments, old communication arrays, even personal communication implants. Create a network so complex that any incoming threat will waste resources trying to understand our communication patterns." The colony's geological research team began their most critical work. They mapped out every electromagnetic anomaly, every mineral deposit that could potentially be used as a defensive resource. The planet itself would become their greatest weapon. Massive electromagnetic fields could be manipulated. Mineral-rich rock formations could be used to create natural barriers and interference zones. In the medical bay, doctors and biotechnology specialists worked on adaptive medical protocols. They developed rapid response systems that could treat multiple types of potential injuries simultaneously. Medical nanobots were programmed with multiple defensive and healing protocols, capable of rapid reconfiguration based on potential threat scenarios. Power systems received special attention. The colony's energy infrastructure was designed with maximum flexibility. Solar collections, geothermal taps, and experimental quantum energy collectors could be rapidly reconfigured. A single power grid could become multiple independent systems in seconds, making traditional targeting almost impossible. Underground storage facilities were transformed into potential command centers. Modular equipment could be rapidly deployed or hidden. What appeared to be simple storage containers could become complex communication hubs or defensive positions within minutes. Elena Rodriguez completed her final systems check. The colony's integrated defense network was now a complex, living system. No single point of failure existed. No traditional military strategy could easily predict or counter their approach. "We're ready," she reported to Captain Chen. The incoming threat was still weeks away. But Meridian Prime was no longer just a colony. It had transformed into a complex, adaptive organism ready to defend itself against any potential invasion. In the vast darkness of space, something extraordinary was preparing to happen. The first warning came as a subtle disruption in the planetary magnetic field. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with an intensity that bordered on predatory focus. Microscopic changes in electromagnetic signatures told a story of approaching danger long before visual confirmation could be established. "Incoming vessels detected," she announced, her voice calm and controlled. Multiple large-scale energy signatures approaching from the Orient sector. The colony's integrated defense network sprang to life with a precision that defied traditional military doctrine. What appeared to be simple communication relays began to pulse with complex interference patterns. Mining equipment hummed with potential energy. Every system in the colony existed in a state of constant preparedness, waiting to be transformed. Captain Rebecca Chen studied the incoming threat with a mathematician's precision. The Zarkon fleet approached in a classic invasion formation, 16 primary combat vessels supported by numerous support craft. Their approach was textbook, predictable, which meant they were vulnerable. "Activate Phase 1 adaptive camouflage," Chen commanded. Across the planetary surface, entire sections of infrastructure began to shift. Solar collection panels realigned. Geological formations seemed to ripple and change. Sensor-absorbing materials spread across the colony's exterior, making their technological footprint almost indistinguishable from the planet's natural electromagnetic background. The first wave of Zarkon reconnaissance drones entered the planetary atmosphere. They expected to find a simple colonial outpost, easy prey for their advanced scanning technologies. Instead, they encountered something entirely unexpected. Electromagnetic interference began to play havoc with their navigation systems. Scanning beams were reflected and refracted in impossible ways. What should have been clear imaging became a complex maze of false readings and shifting data. The drone's artificial intelligence struggled to make sense of the environment. In the colony's central command center, Elena Rodriguez orchestrated a symphony of technological deception. Old communication satellites, repurposed mining equipment, and complex sensor arrays worked in perfect harmony. Each system sent out carefully calibrated signals designed to confuse and misdirect. "They're trying to get a comprehensive scan of our infrastructure," she explained to Chen. "We're going to give them exactly what we want them to see." Holographic projections began to materialize across the planetary surface. Some showed false industrial complexes. Others created the illusion of minimal defensive capabilities. Each projection was a carefully constructed piece of technological theater, designed to lull the invaders into a false sense of security. The Zarkon fleet's primary command vessel began its initial approach. Massive energy collectors powered up, preparing for what they believed would be a simple resource extraction mission. Their long-range scanners painted a picture of a vulnerable colonial outpost, exactly what they had been led to believe. But Meridian Prime was anything but vulnerable. Underground facilities hummed with potential energy. Converted mining lasers could become precision targeting systems in milliseconds. Cargo drones waited, transformed into potential reconnaissance and defensive platforms. Every piece of equipment existed in a state of constant metamorphosis. "They're preparing initial landing protocols," Chen observed, watching the incoming fleet's movements. "Let them believe they have the advantage." The first wave of Zarkon invasion modules began their descent. Their advanced scanning technologies continued to receive carefully crafted false information. Sensor ghosts danced across their navigation systems. What appeared to be clear landing zones shifted and changed. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. They have no idea what's coming. The planetary surface seemed to come alive. Geological formations shifted almost imperceptibly. Electromagnetic fields created complex interference patterns. The entire planet appeared to be preparing for something extraordinary. First contact was imminent, but the Zarkon fleet was about to learn that Meridian Prime was nothing like any world they had encountered before. The real battle was just beginning. The first actual combat sequence began with a moment of absolute silence. Captain Rebecca Chen stood at the central command station, her posture rigid but her movements fluid. Around her, the colony's integrated defense network pulsed with calculated energy. Every system, every module existed in a state of dynamic potential, waiting, watching, ready to transform at a moment's notice. Incoming primary assault wave, announced Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. They're approaching from 3 primary vectors. The Zarkon invasion modules descended through the planet's upper atmosphere, their biomechanical hulls designed to withstand extreme environmental conditions. Advanced targeting systems powered up, preparing to neutralize what they believed would be minimal colonial defenses. They were catastrophically wrong. Mining lasers that moments ago had been extracting geological samples now transformed into precision targeting systems. Cargo drones, previously used for resource transportation, became autonomous attack platforms with near-sentient navigation capabilities. The entire colonial infrastructure began to move with a fluidity that defied traditional military understanding. Redirect geothermal energy, Chen commanded. Prepare electromagnetic interference pattern Delta 7. Beneath the planetary surface, massive energy collectors began to pulse. Geological formations seemed to ripple and shift, creating complex interference patterns that disrupted the invading fleet's communication and navigation systems. What appeared to be simple rock formations became adaptive energy redirection platforms. The first wave of Zarkon assault craft found themselves suddenly blind. Communication systems collapsed. Navigation arrays became useless arrays of meaningless data. Precision targeting mechanisms detected multiple false signatures, each more complex than the last. Elena Rodriguez managed the colony's defensive network like a complex musical composition. They're attempting to re-establish communication protocols, she reported. We're going to give them something to communicate about. Automated defense systems came alive. What the Zarkon expected to be simple colonial infrastructure revealed itself as a complex, adaptive network. Defensive capabilities emerged from unexpected locations. Solar collection panels became energy weapons. Water filtration systems generated localized electromagnetic disruption fields. The colony's training became immediately apparent. Every resident understood their role in the defense strategy. Farmers became emergency technicians. Medical personnel managed communication systems. Children as young as 12 knew complex survival and technical adaptation protocols. Primary invasion modules approaching critical failure point, Rodriguez announced, her voice a mixture of scientific detachment and growing excitement. Captain Chen watched the holographic displays with calculated precision. The Zarkon fleet was experiencing something completely outside their strategic algorithmic predictions. Each defensive response was unique, unpredictable, constantly shifting. Underground facilities transformed into mobile command centers. Communication relays became complex jamming systems. What appeared to be simple storage containers could become advanced defensive positions within seconds. The first Zarkon combat vessel spiraled out of control, its advanced systems completely overwhelmed by the colony's adaptive defense network. Electromagnetic pulses created complex interference patterns that made traditional targeting almost impossible. Energy redirection systems turned the planet's natural geological formations into complex defensive mechanisms. They're attempting emergency retreat protocols, Rodriguez reported. But we're not letting them go that easily. Autonomous drone systems, cobbled together from mining equipment and communication relays, began to pursue the retreating invasion modules. Each drone operated with a level of intelligence that suggested something more than simple programming. They adapted. They learned. They responded to threats with a complexity that bordered on living intelligence. The colonial defense was no longer just a defensive strategy. It had become a living, breathing system of technological adaptation. As the first wave of invasion craft began to retreat, Captain Chen allowed herself the slightest hint of a smile. The real battle was just beginning. Meridian Prime had transformed from a simple colonial outpost into something far more significant, a testament to human adaptability, innovation, and survival. The interstellar communication networks erupted with unprecedented activity. Broadcast systems across multiple star systems began receiving fragmented transmissions from the Meridian Prime confrontation, each signal more incredible than the last. What had begun as a simple resource extraction mission had transformed into something far more significant. In the central communication hub of the Galactic Consensus, an interstellar diplomatic organization comprising hundreds of advanced civilizations, senior analysts worked with feverish intensity. Massive holographic displays captured snippets of the ongoing conflict, each frame revealing something more extraordinary than the previous one. Dr. Marcus Reyes, the human representative to the Galactic Consensus, watched the transmissions with a mixture of professional detachment and growing excitement. The communications were unlike anything in the organization's extensive archives. A small human colony was not just defending itself, it was completely rewriting the understood principles of technological warfare. The defensive capabilities are unlike anything we've ever seen, commented Zorak, a senior analyst from the Quantum Computational Collective. Her multispectral sensory arrays processed the incoming data with incredible speed. Their technological infrastructure appears to be living, constantly reconfiguring, each system demonstrating levels of adaptive intelligence that defy our current computational models. The broadcast systems continued to string the conflict across multiple communication channels. Scientific institutes, military research centers, and diplomatic organizations from hundreds of worlds watched with increasing amazement. The Zarkon fleet, considered an undefeatable force of galactic conquest, found itself systematically dismantled by a colony of 50,000 humans. Meridian Prime's communication protocols became a masterclass in technological deception. Each transmission was a carefully constructed piece of information warfare. Solar radiation was redirected into complex communication arrays. Old satellites and communication relays were transformed into sophisticated signal generators that created elaborate technological mirages. They're not just defending, Dr. Rice observed to his colleagues. They're demonstrating a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. The colony's broadcast systems began to tell a story far beyond simple military engagement. Every system showed levels of adaptability that challenged fundamental understanding of technological development. Mining lasers became precision targeting systems. Cargo drones transformed into autonomous combat platforms. Water filtration units generated complex electromagnetic interference fields. Diplomatic channels began to light up. Representatives from various star systems demanded more information. How could such a small human settlement demonstrate technological capabilities that surpassed centuries of established military doctrine? Captain Rebecca Chen understood the broader implications. This was more than a battle. This was a statement about human potential. Every system in the colony was designed with multiple potential functions. Nothing existed in a single state. Everything was constantly prepared to transform, to adapt, to survive. The Galactic Consensus communication networks became a web of speculation and analysis. Scientific institutes began requesting comprehensive data packages. Military research centers initiated emergency sessions to understand the technological breakthrough. It's not about the technology, Chen had explained during an encrypted communication burst. It's about the approach. Every person, every system, constantly prepared, constantly learning. Interstellar news networks began broadcasting fragments of the conflict. The story of Meridian Prime spread like a quantum wave across multiple star systems. A small human colony had done what no other civilization had accomplished. They had completely neutralized the Zarkon invasion force through pure adaptive potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez managed the colony's communication systems with surgical precision. Each transmitted signal was a carefully constructed narrative. They weren't just defending. They were teaching, demonstrating a fundamental approach to survival that transcended traditional technological understanding. The conflict was transforming from a simple defensive engagement into a profound technological and philosophical statement. Humanity was showing the galaxy something fundamental about adaptation, about potential, about the nature of survival itself. As the battle continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Meridian Prime was no longer just a colony. It had become a beacon of human potential, the living demonstration of what was possible when creativity, training, and collective intelligence were pushed to their absolute limits. The galaxy would never be the same. The final stage of the conflict began with an unexpected silence. Captain Rebecca Chen stood in the colony's primary command center, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays that mapped the ongoing engagement. Around her, the entire infrastructure of Meridian Prime hummed with a living, adaptive energy that defied traditional understanding of technological systems. Aboard the primary Zarkon command vessel, Captain Selnak experienced something unprecedented in the fleet's centuries of conquest: complete system failure. What had begun as a routine invasion had transformed into a nightmare of technological impossibility. Their most advanced scanning systems produced nothing but meaningless data. Communication networks collapsed into intricate mazes of signal interference. Every attempt to mount a conventional counterattack met with responses so complex, so utterly unpredictable, that their strategic algorithms began to break down. "We are detecting multiple simultaneous system compromises," reported Creevil, the ship's primary analytical system. The biomechanical intelligence sounded almost confused, a state completely foreign to its programming. Selnak watched as another invasion module spiraled out of control. The colony below was not just defending itself. It was actively dismantling their technological infrastructure with a precision that bordered on living intelligence. Elena Rodriguez managed the colony's defensive network like a master conductor. Mining equipment became complex communication jammers. Agricultural monitoring systems transformed into sophisticated targeting platforms. Water filtration units generated localized electromagnetic disruption fields that rendered the invading fleet's most advanced technologies completely useless. "Redirect geothermal energy," Chen commanded. "Prepare quantum interference pattern Gamma 9. Beneath the planetary surface, massive energy collectors began to pulse. Geological formations seemed to breathe and shift, creating interference patterns that completely destabilized the Zarkon fleet's technological infrastructure. What appeared to be simple rock formations became adaptive energy redirection platforms that absorbed, transformed, and redirected energy in ways that defied known physical principles. The colony's training became brutally apparent. Every resident understood their role in the complex defensive strategy. Farmers managed emergency communication systems. Medical personnel controlled defensive energy networks. Children understood complex survival protocols that would challenge most military academies. Selnak realized the fundamental error in their invasion strategy. Meridian Prime was not a traditional colony. It was a living, adaptive organism. Each system existed in a constant state of potential transformation. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was predictable. Attempting emergency retreat protocols, Creevil reported, its analytical tone now tinged with something approaching fear. But retreat was impossible. The colony's autonomous defense systems began to systematically disable the Zarkon fleet. Converted cargo drones pursued invasion modules with an intelligence that suggested something far beyond simple programming. They adapted. They learned. They responded to threats with a complexity that made traditional artificial intelligence look primitive. Interstellar communication networks captured fragments of the conflict. Scientific institutes across multiple star systems analyzed every transmitted signal with growing amazement. A small human colony was not just defending itself, it was completely rewriting the understood principles of technological warfare. "They're dismantling our entire technological infrastructure," Selnak observed with a mixture of professional detachment and growing respect. Chen understood the broader implications. This was more than a battle. This was a demonstration of human potential. Every system in the colony was designed with multiple potential functions. Nothing existed in a single state. Everything was constantly prepared to transform, to adapt, to survive. The final blow came not with violence, but with information. Meridian Prime began broadcasting the entire conflict across multiple communication channels, every strategic decision, every technological adaptation. A complete, transparent demonstration of how a small, determined group could transform technological limitations into unprecedented strengths. As the last Zarkon invasion module spiraled into non-functionality, a profound silence settled over the planetary system. The galaxy would never be the same. The silence that followed the battle was more profound than any sound that had come before. Holographic displays across the galactic consensus headquarters flickered with aftermath reports. Delegates from hundreds of civilizations studied the comprehensive data packages transmitted by Meridian Prime, each frame revealing layers of technological and philosophical complexity that challenged everything they understood about survival, adaptation, and potential. Captain Rebecca Chen stood before the colony's primary council, her report both a military debriefing and a manifesto of human capability. "We didn't just defend ourselves," she explained, her voice calm and measured. "We demonstrated a fundamental approach to existence that transcends traditional technological understanding." Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented the technical analysis. The colony's defensive systems had not just repelled an invasion, they had completely rewritten the understanding of technological adaptation. Every system in Meridian Prime had functioned as part of a living, breathing network. Mining equipment became communication arrays. Agricultural monitoring systems transformed into complex defensive platforms. Water filtration units generated electromagnetic disruption fields. The Zarkon expanse found itself in an unprecedented position. Their first total defeat in over 3 centuries had exposed fundamental limitations in their approach to conquest. What they had considered absolute technological superiority had been systematically dismantled by a colony of 50,000 humans. Diplomatic channels across multiple star systems began to buzz with activity. Scientific institutes requested comprehensive data packages. Military research centers initiated emergency sessions to understand the technological breakthrough. How could such a small human settlement demonstrate capabilities that surpassed centuries of established military doctrine? "It's not about the technology," Chen had explained during an earlier communication. "It's about approach. Every person, every system, constantly prepared, constantly learning." The colony's communication strategy became as impressive as its defensive capabilities. They didn't just defend, they educated. Every transmitted signal was a carefully constructed lesson in adaptive potential. The entire conflict became a comprehensive case study in survival, innovation, and collective intelligence. Meridian Prime began receiving communication requests from scientific institutions across multiple star systems. Researchers wanted to understand the colony's approach to technological integration. How had they created a system so fundamentally adaptive that it could transform every piece of infrastructure into a potential defensive mechanism? The answer was deceptively simple: total commitment to collective potential. Every resident underwent comprehensive cross-training. Farmers understood complex communication systems. Medical personnel could manage emergency technological infrastructure. Children learned survival protocols that would challenge most military academies. No system existed in a single state. Everything was constantly prepared to transform, to adapt, to survive. Representatives from the galactic consensus began arriving. They came not as diplomatic observers, but as students. Each delegation wanted to understand the fundamental principles that had allowed Meridian Prime to achieve the impossible. Dr. Marcus Rice, the human representative to the galactic consensus, found himself at the center of unprecedented diplomatic activity. This is more than a technological achievement, he explained to senior delegates. This is a philosophical statement about the nature of potential itself. The colony began to receive offers of support, of collaboration. Scientific institutes requested permission to study their technological approach. Military research centers wanted to understand their training protocols. Diplomatic organizations sought to comprehend the philosophical underpinnings of their survival strategy. But Meridian Prime remained focused on its original mission: survival and exploration. "We're not interested in conquest," Captain Chen explained during a comprehensive interview broadcast across multiple communication networks. "We're interested in potential, in learning, in understanding." As the initial aftermath settled, one thing became profoundly clear. Meridian Prime was no longer just a colony. It had become a beacon of human potential, a living demonstration of what was possible when creativity, training, and collective intelligence were pushed to their absolute limits. The final transmission from the colony captured the essence of their achievement, a simple message that would be studied for generations. Adaptation is not just survival. It is evolution. The galaxy would never be the same.